Good morning, and thank you for the invitation to this session on imagining the invisible. My talk today is called Groundwater Sustainability Methods Across Scales to Enable Improved Groundwater Governance. And I'm going to start with a haiku. Groundwater connects to people and place. Let's all make that visible. My presentation today is brought to you as well by PhD students Xander Huggins and Christina Disney. And I'm actually presenting from Costa Rica, so you might hear some roosters in the background. It's early morning here, and I hope you're having a good morning at your conference in Finland or wherever you are online. I also wanted to acknowledge and start with where I'm from normally, where I live in so-called Victoria. And the lands and waters around Victoria are the lands of the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich territories. This is the beach where I live nearby. And I'm going to talk later in this talk about the Huaxila Stalo in Cowichan territory, about an hour north of Victoria. And all of this is just across the Salish Sea from Vancouver, just to orient you for those who know the largest city around. What I'm going to talk about is three main things in this short presentation. I'm going to first make an argument that groundwater sustainability is a connected social ecological system. The second is that we have conducted data-driven mapping of global groundwater connected systems, and this is possible. This could enable groundwater governance across different scales. And the last is around community-based research, which on Vancouver Island has been complex and impactful. And all this research is organized around this graph here, where the horizontal axis is scale from global to local in my context. And as we move towards more and more local settings, specificity and context becomes really important for the differences in social, economic, political, cultural, and even colonial histories. And so all of this becomes much more important and relevant at local scales. One of the overarching ideas that I've been tangling with graduate students is around this social ecological systems framework, as it shifted my thinking into a really much more sustainability science domain. And this is really brought up on and led by graduate student Xander Huggins. And this theory helps me shift from a really physical way of looking at groundwater systems, as I was trained in the top left here with confined and unconfined aquifers and wells. This work has really been led by Eleanor Ahlstrom and others, identifying both resource systems and resource units, but really importantly, centering this framework around action situations. And I think that's what's so important in governance change. And on the right-hand side of this diagram is governance and actors. So all of this becomes a system with boundaries. And outside of those boundaries are broader social, economic, or political systems or related ecosystems. And all of these things react or interact in very complex ways that I won't talk about here. But we've started to apply this framework to groundwater for the first time. This is work, again, led by Xander Huggins, where he has taken various aspects of the social ecological systems framework and applied it to groundwater systems. So, for example, action situations in orange here. These are various action situations that groundwater arise, either problems or challenges or opportunities for groundwater governance and groundwater systems. And each of these have related resource systems, social, ecological, and economic settings, governance systems, actors, and related ecosystems. So this is a really strong way of thinking about complex groundwater systems and how to change those in a groundwater governance context. Xander more recently has applied a very sophisticated archetyping methodology to develop a new what we call groundwater scapes. These are a map of how groundwater interacts with the world around it. And rather than just focusing on physical groundwater systems, this map and analysis focuses on groundwater as a social ecological system. We map these different characteristic units across time and space, and this can enable solution transfer and comparison between different regions around the world in a groundwater governance context. The last project I want to talk about this morning quickly is a project that I've been involved with on Vancouver Island, as I mentioned earlier. And this is the first, what's called a water sustainability plan. This is a new and evolving co-governance structure between the Indigenous nation, Cowichan tribes, and the colonial government, the province of British Columbia, or BC, as I've shown here. There's an image at the beginning of the process of the different parties sitting around the table and signing the initial scoping agreement, which was then has been more now recently developed into a new agreement to work over the next 3 years together. I lead a research project, a community science research project that is in part helping to support this new and evolving co-governance structure. We call this research project Hochsila Connections, and we connect 3 different things: groundwater and surface water. We connect people in the watershed, and we connect water science with how water decisions are made. And we do this by taking 3 different aspects to our research approach. We take a whole of watershed approach that includes everything, including communities and ecosystems, kind of a whole of science approach, which is community-based and participatory. And we try to be collaborative yet independent with this evolving watershed sustainability plan. We're guided by our partners, which are Cowichan tribes, the province of British Columbia, and 2 local water NGOs, Cowichan Watershed Board and the Hochsila Working Group. And importantly, given the context that we're in, we're trying to apply best practices in Indigenous data governance. And so in Canada, these are called OCAP, Ownership, Control, Authority, and Possession. More broadly and internationally, these are called the CARE principles. And interestingly, in this project, we're pairing or combining the OCAP principles of Indigenous data governance with the FAIR principles of open data governance. So in this case, the data that the community is deriving is owned by Cowichan tribes, and University of Victoria, where I'm based, is the steward, and we're hosting this community data on an online platform called Anecdata. We have 5 connected projects in this larger project around community-led watershed monitoring, around participatory modeling, around facilitating community science. And later, we're going to develop projects on highlighting the value of community science and reporting on how all of this community science is actually affecting how governance and decision-making is done. So I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish you a great rest of your session.